Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics, Lesson Non-Classics. This is episode number 1740 and Doubleshot number 34. Yes. Now, this one, believe it or not, is actually talking about two epic collections. And you're thinking, really? Two? Yep, two. And here's the thing when it comes to these particular issues. Okay. So, the first one was now both these two guys are noteworthy Avengers. And both were created by Jack Kirby, but only one of them was created by Stan Lee. We have Iron Man Epic Collection, Volume 20, The Hands of Evil. Yep, that's the name of this book. This book contains issues 310 and 318 of Iron Man, War Machine, Volume 1, issues 8 through 10, Force Works, 6 through 7, Iron Man and Force Works Collector's Preview, and material from Marvel Comics Presents 116 and the 172. Yeah, the first thing that starts off in this book is the Hands of Mandarin crossover. Yep. That is pretty much what we have first. Yeah, because that's where the War Machine issues and Force Works, Marvel Comics Presents, and the early Iron Man issues. That's all Hands of Mandarin. Yep. It's a 6-part story. First you have the prelude from the probably looks like the backup story from issues 169 and 170. That's what we start with. And then we have 310, Friends and Enemies. By the way, this book covers from the years of from late December 1994 to July 1995. These issues are written by Lane Kametsky, which I believe he writes the Iron Man issues, Scott Benson, Dan Abbott, and Andy Lanning. The artwork here is done by Gabriel Gico, Tom Morgan, Dave Taylor, Jeff Sr., Fred Haynes, Dave Cusick, Patrick Russo, Lawrence Brown, Ray Garcia, Ryan Williamson, Rob Haynes, and John Klops. It's CZOP. The cover here, this is done by Tom Morgan. The back cover artwork is done by Gabriel Gecko and Bob Weck. You might be asking, is Bob Weck like one of the inkers? Yes, he is. Yeah. Hands Mandarin is simple. The manager coming back and basically... Now, this storyline was loosely adapted for a 2-parter in the Iron Man TV show. As a matter of fact, they used this very armor in that TV show. And it's one of my first favorite armors. And I think this is one of my friend Edgar's favorite armors, too. Yep. Yes, I believe it is. Yeah, this prologue is kind of exploring Mandra's time over the years. That's simply what it is. And then we cut to War Machine number 8. Where we have War Machine fighting Iron Man. And this is done by Scott Benson and Lynn Kametsky. Where it's mostly dealing with a flashback when Tony Stark was briefly revived. And of course this is War Machine in his book. Yep. They fight each other and simply put, basically, we have the Hands Manager crossover. First we have War Machine number 8. Part 2 is Iron Man 310. That's part 2 of the story. And is it still the same people? Well, it's mostly like Kametsky who does these issues. Yeah, I think he's also the last writer who writes Iron Man prior to its relaunch in 1986. Yep. And here's, I think that's Bethany Cave, if not mistaken. Yes. Yeah, Bethany Cave, because basically, then we have then we finally start, I think it was more a prelude, those two issues. We kind of have part 1 of 6, Force Works number 6. Now, I'm kind of in a way almost bypassing these issues because I've technically talked about the issues already, thanks to the Avengers vs. Iron Man Force Works trade, which I believe collects the first 15 issues of the series, plus this entire crossover. The one thing I pointed out there, and it's still very much noteworthy here, is that when this series first started, the artwork was bad. Oh my gosh, the artwork is atrociously bad. I mean, here it's slightly better, but if you read the opening 2 issues of the series of Forceworks, the artwork is atrociously bad. Yep. Part 2 is Hans the Mandarin. This is the POV stuff done by Dan Abnett. This is all done from this is Century stuff. Yeah. Forceworks also had a feature in the pages of Mark Hamill Presents, and here's a little fun fact about the Mark Hamill Presents issues. After 172, this series would end 3 issues later. Yeah, 3 more issues were released for this comic book. So basically, this book ended in less than 2 months. Because the reason why that I say that in less than 2 months, is probably like the 3 issues left, because the entire 75 issue run, this book was released twice a month for the entire run. Though when they revived the book in, I believe it was like 2007, that was a monthly comic book. And then they brought it back again in 2019 as part of the 80th anniversary of Marvel. That book got canceled after only 9 issues. No, seriously, it did. Yep. Now, if you're curious to who was responsible for writing the Forceworks book, it was Dan Abnett and Andy Leving. And here's one for you. This guy here, that is supposed to be U.S. Agent. No, seriously, that's supposed to be U.S. Agent. Yeah. Now here's much more better artwork for Scarlet Witch. Yeah, Scarlet Witch, believe it or not, actually had a mini-series published this period of time. Yep, she had her first volume, first ever book, without the Vision by her side, and of course, the number of Heart of Darkness. That was also a crossover they had for the Midnight Suns line. Now, Scarlet Witch would definitely, after this, would have another solo book, this time published in 2015 by James Robinson. An excellent comic book that Marvel canceled after 15 issues. No, seriously, 15 freaking issues. I love that comic book. Yep. As we finally get past all the Hans the Mandarin stuff, we get to a little bit of stuff for Iron Man. Because I think it's 313 is basically like when we finally get past the Hans the Mandarin stuff. We get reminded of the classic Demon Battle storyline by Dave Michelini and Bob Layton. That's what this cover is reminding me of. Is that it's acknowledging the fact that story exists. And here's a little something for you. Look at this logo. You're probably thinking, what's that there for? The reason why that's there is because Iron Man was part of Forceworks, and this was a band across his book and War Machine. If you look at any cover published from the period of like 1984 and 85, they had this logo on the book. Why was it there? My only guess is because of how Forceworks. Yep. And still, Len Kameski basically is still writing the book. And Iron Man has stopped wearing the 90s outfit, went back to, I believe this is either Mark IV or Mark V attire. Yes. Where he deals with the fallout of the Hans Mantricross. So something what it is, and of course being in New Adventures. And then we have a start of like something new. And now we have Iron Man back to this armor here. Yes. Welcome to Stark Enterprises. Yes. We get people like Iron Man, who is I think at this point in time, Iron Man still has the title of being Tony Stark's bodyguard. Yes, this is something Stan Lee established. You can't blame any other writer except Stan Lee for establishing that. And here's the weird thing about this, and some people in the story have poked fun of this. that Iron Man and Tony Stark have never been in the same vicinity as each other. It's at one point we see Tony Stark, and then he disappears, and here's Iron Man. That was a gag for years. Yes. This also was more expansion of the... this is one thing I do like about the Iron Man books. And my friend Edgar agreed with me on this because he's a big Iron Man fan. He probably loves this too. This is more Tony Stark being Iron Man, doing scientific stuff with the Iron Man suit. More classic Iron Man story. Yeah, because no more Mandarin stuff. We're dealing with that. And we even have brief guest appearance in here by Captain America. Just here to save his life. And that was issue 314. 315 is a rematch of Iron Man and the Titanium Man. Yep. Yeah. That's simply what this issue is. A rematch between... Now, this is the classic suit for Titanium Man. Yeah, for some reason, the artist drew him in the old 60s garb. Yeah, I don't know why, though. If you're curious, though, about who the Titanium Man is... He is one of two characters who is Russia's equivalent to Iron Man. The other being the Crimson Dynamo. Yes. And a lot of the time, Titanium Man is usually depicted as a hired goon. That's what he is, but he loves fighting Iron Man. That's the thing with him. And he's a patriot. Despite the fact he's basically a notorious criminal in the U.S., in Russia, and this is pointed out about the Black Widow, who, by the way, makes a guest star appearance issue 315 in her 90s. And, well, actually, no. This is actually not from the 90s. This is actually out from the 80s. Yes, for some reason, they actually had her wearing this attire. And this issue also the return of the Crimson Dynamo. Unlike Titanium Man, who retaining his old 60s look, not the Crimson Dynamo. Nope. For some reason, they decided to give a brand new look. Yes, and I believe this is the 5th or 6th Crimson Dynamo at this point. Yes, I believe so. Because there has been several different versions of this character. This is the Valentin Sakov version. This is the sixth Crimson Dynamo. Yep, he was the 6th one. And I think this may have been his last appearance. Because I think I read something right here that 317 was his last appearance. Yeah, the weird thing about this guy is that he didn't really appear very much. He only appeared 5 times. No, seriously, he only appeared 5 times. And 317 is his last appearance to date. Yeah, for some reason he was dropped after this. Now, I kind of forgot this book had this. Apparently, this had a Becca feature. Yep, a Becca feature. Which, I don't think this book reprinted it. I don't know if it did. It may have. I don't think it did. Nope, it didn't reprint it. Nope, it did not reprint it. Now, his first appearance, this version, was back in Iron Man 255, which was published back in 1990. He's a creation of Fabian DeCisa, yes, Fabian DeCisa, Herb Tramp, and Glenn Harding. Yes, I don't think this guy does any work Marvel anymore. No, he didn't do very much. He's always mostly an editor, but yeah, he started with What the number 3, and his last book he ever did for Marvel was Deadpool 42, which I believe was from the first volume of his Deadpool comic book. Yep, that was the last comic book that he worked on. And the thing with this guy is, You're probably thinking, has there been any of the Crimson Knights ever? Now, there have been others, yes, but you might be thinking, okay, has any versions of the Crimson Knight have appeared in the MCU? Well, outside of the comics? Kind of, yes. They had a Anagram version appear in Iron Man 2, except that version was an Anagram of Crimson Whiplash. Yep. So after finding Iron Man for these 2 issues, yeah. After these 2 issues, that's the last you see of this Crimson Dynamo. Yep, the last one. Oh, good. They do include the Warren Brothers one. Yeah, they included that in here. Yeah, I kind of forgot I really like. Yeah, but the artwork, it's just a Brothers in Arms. It just focuses on War Machine, Hawkeye, and U.S. Agent. And oh boy, this artwork is bad. Like, here's one for you. That's War Machine of this artwork. Yes. This is done by Fred Hines. It's good, though, that Marvel included this, because why the heck not? And they included the entire thing of, like, 1. 318 is the last issue in this book. Yeah. Yep, it's just him fighting an alien for 1 issue called Hot Metal. But it's great, though, seeing some of this artwork. The artwork for this issue is actually not that bad. No, I don't mind at all. Yeah, I don't think this is done by the other artists. No, this is done by Tom Morgan. Like, here's Iron Man's artwork. Like, wow, that's actually not that bad of artwork. Yeah, it does get a little weird with this alien. Yep. Yeah. Stuff gets good in here. And then, of course, he put on like a spare Iron Man suit and goes to his armory and he looks at him, and that's where that book ends. Yeah, they included the preview book, which is simply just a spotlight of stuff you will see later on. Yeah, and that's the book in a nutshell. This book is actually pretty good. I'm giving this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. If you're curious, though, what happens next after 318? Believe it or not, what happens right after 318. If you want to have a 319, that's part of the, by far, one of the most hated crossovers of all time, The Crossing. And it took up issues 319 and 325. And I have technically discussed issues 326 to 332. I discussed 326 to 331. I discussed that in Avengers / Iron Man First Sight, and 332 in one of the Onslaught trades. Yep, so whenever I get a chance to get my hands on the Crossing trade, I'll be able to close that gap. Everybody thinking, wow, you're basically just breezing through the 300s for Iron Man. Well, for the first volume anyways. I have technically already covered the second volume of Iron Man already, and I did cover the first trade, the collect issues from the opening trade, that collect issues from the current volume, that covered volume 3 for Iron Man. Yep. There have been other trades mostly. For some reason, and I'm not really sure why this is, for Hero's Return for Iron Man for volume 3. Well, for some reason, I'm not really sure why this is. Like, they only put out 1 book. No, seriously, it's only 1 book for reasons that are unexplained. Yeah, as far as I can tell, there has been no official reason of why they've only put out 1. At least in the case of a book like Avengers, you don't technically need one. You have Avengers Assemble, which was 5 volumes, and you have the Avengers volumes 1 through 5, and that collect that 3rd volume. Captain America, at least, has been entirely in trade. But Iron Man Volume 3, no, there's a good chunk of this volume not in trade. And you're thinking, really? Yes. Basically, the first 32 issues are in trade, but not issues 33 to 63 and 65 through 83. These issues are not in trade. No, they're not. Don't know why, though, but the oldest issue I've ever read for Iron Man was the 84th issue. Well, this first in a row is Iron Man issue 84 from the Avengers Simple Story trade. Yep. All right, next up it is Captain America Epic Collection Volume 9 Dawned Early Light. This collects issues of Captain America issues 247 to 266. Bit shorter than the other book. Yeah, this book is only like 19 issues plus an annual. Like, the book is nothing. Sorry for the bent stuff. Yes. Now, like in the case of Iron Man Epic Collection, lots of writers. Some of them really noteworthy. And here's a fun fact for you. Guess how many people who actually wrote this book I've actually met? You want an answer to that? 1. Jim Shooter. Yep, Jim Shooter is the only person to work in work on the issues collecting this trade that actually I have met. Everybody else working this book, have never met him. Here are your writers for these issues. Roger Stern. I've read a lot of Roger Stern issues for Captain America. In his other books, he's really good. We have John Burns, also the artist of these issues. Yep. Bill Mantlo. Mike W. Barr. The awesome Dave Michelini. Al Milgrom. Gian DeMatteis. David Anthony Croft. Jim Shooter, obviously. Excuse me. And Chris Claremont. And you scratch your head like, Chris Claremont wrote Captain America? Yes, he did. He wrote like an issue or two of this, and this is the book that he's not really associated with. What's usually the first book people think of? We think of Chris Claremont, Uncanny X-Men. Of course, he's also worthy for having a run on Fantastic Four. Yep, he did the relaunch of the book in the late 90s. Yeah, basically after Heroes Reborn, for Heroes Return, he was the original writer of that book. And he also worked on books like Extreme X-Men. He started X-Men Volume 2. He did the opening 3 issues. Came back briefly in 2000 for that book. I'm trying to think what books he worked on. He has worked on one thing for Avengers, an annual. And here are your artists. I already mentioned about John Byrne. The late Gene Colan. Here's one for you. I actually met one of the artists of this book. Mike Zeck. I met him once at a Comic-Con. I think that's about 3 or 4 years ago I met him. Yeah, and I talked to us about him where I think it was Stephen Grant, a guy he worked with on the first volume of Punisher. Of course, he also worked on X. Like, does he agree that Stephen Grant is a very underrated writer? And he says, yes. Yeah, he is definitely an underrated writer. He agrees with me on that. Yep, Alan Kupperberg and Michael Severn. Yeah, a lot of these issues are mostly standalone, but loosely connected. Yes. Here's the thing about this guy here. That is the Ameridroid. He's basically a giant-sized Captain America. Now, in the first issue you have in here, you have Cap versus Baron Wolfgang von Strucker. Also, these issues cover the time period of July of 1980 to January 1982. And this is only volume 9. Yes, 9 compared to Iron Man was like volume 20. The front cover right here, that's done by John Byrne, Jeff Robinstein, who is the England Inkers, and Thomas Manson. Now, is he like one of the Inkers covers? No, he isn't. Of course, back covers by Mike Zeck, John Beatty, and Tom Smith. John Beatty is definitely one of the Inkers. Tom Smith is not one of the colorists. You're thinking, really? Yeah, really. Yeah, you have basically John Byrne and Roger Stern being co-plotters in this book. Yeah, and this is one thing I do love about the 80s comic books, like having Captain America working with S.H.I.E.L.D. He's done this a lot over the years. Like, his comics actually with S.H.I.E.L.D. since the 60s. Even as far back as, like, very recently, he's always been associated with S.H.I.E.L.D. in some shape or fashion. We have this very interesting scene of Nick Fury and Baron Wolfgang von Strucker where he was contacted by a country that technically doesn't exist anymore. West Germany. And you're thinking, why does that exist anymore? Because it was because that and East Germany were reabsorbed to become Germany back in 1990. Read history. Yeah, and he's being reported to go to Israel for war crimes because Baron von Wolfgang von Strucker is a Nazi, and he's a war criminal. And today he's never been tried, despite the fact he's committed notorious war crimes. Weird thing is, despite the fact that here's the reason why that he's technically put on trial, because Nick Fury keeps killing him. Yeah, as recently as like 2018, we even have appearance by Machine Smith. Machine Smith is also one of the guys who took the name of Mr. Fear. And you're thinking, really? He did? Yeah, if you don't know who Mr. Fear is, he's a classic Daredevil villain. No, seriously, he is. His real name is Star Staxton. And he's a character who's technically kind of considered as enemy of Captain America. But he first appeared in pages of Daredevil, of all things. Yes. A guy who started as a Daredevil villain became a regular Captain America villain. At one point, this guy died, and then he came back as a robot. Yeah, for reasons. At one point, this guy was a supporting character in the Nick Spencer Ant-Man comic. Yep, and this is what he looked like when he was human. Also, here's a little fun fact about this character. He's gay. Yeah. He's openly gay. Do not know why in the world he's gay. He just is. Issue 248, Cap vs. Dragon Man. Yeah. Because Machine Smith needs to basically have someone fight Cap. And then having an issue where he fights robots. Yep. This is part of the Machine Smith storyline that started with issue 246. And it wraps up with 249. Yeah, and then we have something. Also, we have appearance by his girlfriend at the time, Bernie. Yeah, this was his girlfriend during this period of time in the 80s. And here's somebody you don't expect to see in Captain America comic, J. Jonah Jameson. Yep. After the whole thing of Cap running President 250. And then, of course, basically, 251 is a weird one, where he defeats Batroc the Leaper, and he's attacked by one of the strangest villains that he's ever fought. Like, I love the recap of his history. Like, apparently, Batroc Leaper is not the only one in this issue. We also have Calvin Zabo, Mr. Hyde. Yes, for some reason, we have to throw Mr. Hyde in here. Despite the fact Mr. Hyde is technically a Thor villain, who's also fought Daredevil. Yeah. Oh yeah, and they also retconned in 2000 he actually has a daughter, Quake, who originally she was somebody at one point she was Inhuman, and they retconned it again where she's basically the reason why she got her powers because he experimented on her. Yeah, something Wade did. For the book Shield. Yep, and the whole thing with Batroc Leaper and Mr. Hyde. Yeah, that lasts for like a couple issues. And then we have 200... Oh, this is technically 252. Has a bonus story. Now we have 253, which is a story that features Baron Blood. You're probably thinking, who's Baron Blood? He's a Nazi. He's basically, get this, he is a vampire. No, seriously, Captain America fights a vampire. We actually have a Nazis even in the Exiles book. At one point, you have Baron Blood tried to bite Captain America, which in another continuity, he actually succeeded doing this. Yeah, because of the chainmail around his neck. In the alternate continuity, he didn't have that at all. He tried to bite him, and of course, didn't work. Yeah, of course, the appearance here by the Union Jack. I believe this is the second Union Jack, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I believe it is. After Baron Blood's wrapped up, then we have this issue here, which is a clear homage to the classic Jack Kirby comic. Heck, Look at this first page here. That's a clear homage to Captain America Comics #1, the debut of Captain America. With Captain America punching, well, Adolf Hitler. Yeah, basically issue 255, it's just a recap of Cap's backstory and his time in like some early points of World War II. And then you have the Ghost of Castle, Grammar Castle. Yeah, 256. I believe this is just a standalone issue. I believe this is a Zemo place. Yes. Yeah, it's mostly just a standalone issue, but it's really good. And then we have 257, where he takes on the Hulk. Yes, the Hulk. And who writes this issue? Is this still Roger Stern? No, it's Mike W. Burr. Yep. You might ask, have I met Mike W. Burr? No. No, I have not. Yep. Aside from the whole thing with the Hulk, you also get a chance about Dr. Octopus. Yes, Dr. Octopus. I believe this is the first time they ever fought, and I think they wouldn't fight again, as far as I can tell, not until the Amazing Spider-Man book, where it was the not Origin of Species, it was Ends of the Earth. That was probably the next time we fought Dr. Octopus. And then we have Behind Bars. I believe this is just a quick two-parter. It's just a standalone issue, yes. Where you have Cap basically trying to test the ability of a prison. And you have 261, which is Cap team with Nomad. I believe this is Jack Monroe as Nomad. Yep, that's who this is. It's not necessarily a two-parter per se. Though we do have a return of the Mara droid. We have this mysterious hooded figure who's smoking. Who is this guy, you might ask? Well, they revealed this at the end of 262, where it's actually the Red Skull. Yes, and he reveals he's behind a lot of the stuff that's going on since issue 200. Yeah, he's revealed stuff since, like, as far back as, like, 169. Yeah, he's revealed behind a lot of the stuff here. Great dialogue by the writer of the book, Jane DeMatteis. Yep. He had some pretty interesting issues for Captain America. And you might be curious, though, about this. Like, when it comes to people who wrote Captain America, how long did Jane DeMatteis write the book for, you might ask? He actually had a pretty lengthy run on the book. Oh, yeah. Did issues 261, 264... 267, 270, 272, 275, 290, and 292, 300. He basically wrote this book for the next 2 years. Yes, though in between he would have some fill-in writers per se, but he wouldn't exactly be the writer for a lot of the book per se. But some chunks of the book per se, yes. Yep. And then we have Captain America team with Falcon again for 264. Yeah, this is a kind of a weird one. Where it's like, it's kind of a weirdly written issue, this one. Yeah, this one's done by Jane DeMatteis. But it's an odd issue. Then we have Dave Michelini takes over issue for the... And one of the last books in the publisher's book is the annual. Yeah, this is basically Death Watcher. Yep. This annual was mostly just Captain America deal with some greedy tycoon. It feels like classic 70s Cap. That's what this book is. But it's basically also in team with Spider-Man and Nick Fury. But typical classic Captain America stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have 266. We have a two-part guest appearance by Spider-Man. Yes, Spider-Man. To hopefully try to help save the world, and that's it. Yep. This, of course, really fun book. I give this book a 10 out of 10. Yep. So yeah, that's it for particular view, and that's going to be it for videos today. So tomorrow I expect to see videos for Shaman King, because I'm hoping the episode's going to be released online tomorrow. Baruto, long reviews for news chapters of Black Clover. Actually, no, not Black Clover. I think maybe My Hero Academia. And maybe one more Comic Corner. The only thing that's my seat tomorrow is maybe a Doctor Who review. Okay? Next video. Bye.